I was standing in line at the pharmacy when my phone buzzed. A simple notification from LinkedIn. You've been endorsed. I tapped on it out of habit. I didn't expect anything unusual. I wasn't hiring, mentoring, or networking. Not actively, at least. The message read, "Thanks again for the incredible recommendation. I owe this opportunity to your support." It was from someone named Alexander Kane. The name meant nothing to me. His profile showed a recent hire at Evoke Strategies, the consulting firm where my wife, Natalie, had been head of talent for the past 5 years. I blinked at the screen, trying to understand. I hadn't written any recommendations in months, certainly not for a stranger. I clicked on the message again, then checked his profile. There it was, referred by Matthew Halden. That's me. That's my full name. The moment should have passed with confusion and a shrug. But it didn't. It stuck. When I asked Natalie that evening, she barely looked up from her salad. "Oh, him," she said. "Yeah, he's in one of the partner streams. I think you might have met him at that summer thing with Jen and Peter." She didn't elaborate. I didn't push. Yet. But as we loaded the dishwasher in silence later, I kept replaying the message in my mind. There was a tone in it, not just gratitude, but familiarity. He didn't thank Matthew Halden, LinkedIn connection. He thanked me like someone who'd been vouched for, spoken for. Natalie used to share details about every candidate she interviewed, the quirky ones, the red flags, the ones who brought their mothers to Zoom calls. Now she barely mentioned work. She'd been different lately. Not distant. Just polished. Like everything she said had gone through an internal HR filter before reaching me. I scrolled back through old emails, our shared Google Drive, anywhere I might have forgotten a draft or a favor. Nothing. No letter, no form, no, "Hey Matt, could you take a quick look at this guy?" And then, something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not even fear. Just the dry weight of dissonance. I knew my handwriting, my words, my tone, especially when it came to professional references. I hadn't written anything for Alexander Kane. But someone had. Using my name. The next morning, I called Marcus. We used to share an office back in my early days as a project analyst. Now he ran IT security for a logistics firm. Hypothetically, I began, if someone submitted a job application using a fake referral and listed me as the source, how hard would it be to prove? Marcus didn't laugh. That was already an answer. Harder if they work in HR, he said. If they have access to the back end, they can plant metadata, backdate docs, change IP trails. Why, you suspect someone did that? I suspect, I said carefully, that someone used my name. And I don't think they expected me to notice. There was a pause on the line. "You want me to look into it?" "I want to start with the timestamp," I replied. "I need to know when the letter was attached. Who submitted it? And from what device?" He exhaled. "You're serious?" "Yeah," I said. "This isn't about trust anymore. This is about truth." The face stared back at me from a company webpage like a test I hadn't studied for. Corporate headshots always blur together, the same crossed arms, soft background, controlled smile. But this one gave me pause. Not because of the expression. Because of the feeling. Recognition. I didn't know Alexander Kane, but I'd seen him before. I left the laptop open on the kitchen island while I poured coffee. Natalie walked in wearing her workout clothes, earbuds in, her face pink from the cold air. "Going for a run?" I asked, casually. "Just a quick one," she said, pulling her jacket sleeve over her fitness tracker. "I need it today." I nodded. She leaned over for a kiss. I let her brush my cheek. Once the door closed behind her, I sat back down and stared at the image again. The profile said he'd joined Evoke Strategies 7 months ago, right after the company expanded into digital health. That matched the new division Natalie was overseeing. Coincidence, I told myself. Coincidence is just a pattern we haven't understood yet. Then I remembered something. A barbecue, early fall. Jen and Peter's backyard. Natalie had insisted we go, even though I'd had a deadline. I remembered the way she lit up that day. That was rare. She was animated, joking with people I didn't know, introducing me like I was the plus one. There was a man, taller than me, athletic build, dark hair swept back in a way that looked effortful and effortless at once. I remembered him only because he was playing soccer with the kids. My son, Eli, had tried to keep up. The man had lifted him up after a fall, laughing, wiping the dirt off his knees like he was family. I hadn't caught his name. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos from that afternoon. Scrolling slowly, I passed the paper plates, the grill smoke, the kids in mismatched jerseys. Then I saw it. In the background of a blurry shot of Eli holding a soda can, him. Same eyes, same posture, same lazy confidence. I checked the date. 5 weeks before the LinkedIn message. It wasn't just that he'd been at the barbecue. He'd been in our yard a week later. Natalie told me he was Jen's cousin, helping her move. I hadn't thought twice. I shook his hand. He said, "Good to meet you, sir." Sir. Something in me bristled now. Marcus called later that evening. I got into the metadata, he said. The reference file was uploaded through an internal user ID belonging to Natalie's terminal. Timestamp matches with a submission badge from her department. That's your smoking gun. What about the IP? I asked. Her work machine. VPN routed, but not masked. Pretty sloppy, honestly. I thanked him and hung up. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead. I sat alone, just listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the way it filled the spaces where answers should have been. Why him? Why my name? Why this lie? Natalie had always been strategic. It was one of the things I admired about her. But this wasn't a strategic hire. This was personal. This was intimate. She'd used my credibility like it was hers to spend. Later that night, while she showered, I searched our shared desk drawers. I wasn't sure what I hoped to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a pattern. I found a sticky note tucked inside her planner. It wasn't recent. The ink had faded slightly, but the handwriting was hers. It read, "Hey, Friday, 7:30, rooftop." I stared at it for a long time, thinking of all the Fridays that had passed when she'd told me she was working late, prepping for Monday presentations. Thinking of that rooftop bar she used to love, the one with the string lights and perfect skyline views. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was focused now. Quiet. Cold. This wasn't about jealousy. This was about position. Someone had moved into mine, gradually, gently, deliberately, and no one noticed. Not even me. But now I was watching. Eli had always loved the garden, even though there wasn't much of one. Just a strip of grass, a couple of stubborn hydrangeas, and a rickety bench. Natalie had painted a shade of blue that never quite matched anything else. It was Saturday. I'd taken him out early, just the two of us. Natalie said she had a virtual workshop, leadership resilience, or something equally abstract. So Eli and I wandered to the park, then came back home when the clouds turned silver. He wanted to play outside. I brought him a snack and sat on the steps with my coffee, watching him balance sticks across stones like they were bridges over some invisible current. "Dad," he said after a while, "do you think Alex would help us fix the bench?" I blinked. "Alex?" "Yeah," he said casually. He said it was wobbly and needed new screws. "Remember when he came last time?" I set my coffee down. "When was that, buddy?" He shrugged, digging a hole in the dirt with a stick. "When Mom was working from home. He came through the back. I think she forgot to tell you." I tried to keep my voice level. "Was I here?" "No. You were at your office. I think. He came when it was just us and Mom." "Just us and Mom." I felt my lungs tighten. I smiled faintly, brushing his hair back from his forehead. "What else did he say?" Eli paused, thoughtful. "He said our garden was peaceful. He likes peaceful places." I nodded. "That's nice of him." "Yeah," Eli said. Then, he sat really close to Mom on the bench. Like really close. But maybe 'cause he was helping her stretch? They were doing yoga or something. He said it like it was nothing. And maybe to him, it was. To me, it felt like a dropped match in dry grass. I didn't press further. I changed the subject. We built a stick fort together. I laughed when he threw leaves at me. But part of me was elsewhere, rewinding, zooming in, lining up timelines like puzzle pieces that were starting to form a shape I didn't want to see. That night, when Natalie came down for dinner, she looked radiant. She always did after those workshops. She kissed my cheek lightly and asked if Eli had behaved. "Like a champion," I said. She smiled and served herself salad, talking about team dynamics and scalable trust. I nodded, asking questions, watching the way she never stumbled, never hesitated. Later, after Eli was asleep, I asked softly, "Hey, did Alex ever drop by when I wasn't home?" Natalie froze. Just for a beat. Not long enough for someone else to notice. "But I did." "Alex?" she repeated. "Yeah," I said. "Eli mentioned he stopped by? Something about helping you in the garden." She smiled quickly, the kind of smile you wear like armor. "Oh, that." He returned a book. I think Eli was half asleep when it happened. She tilted her head. "Is that bothering you?" "Should it?" I asked. She came over, touched my arm. "No, of course not. I just didn't think it was worth mentioning." He dropped something off, said hello. That's all. I looked at her hand on mine. Warm, familiar, too practiced. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know what worth mentioning meant to her anymore. Natalie had always managed the budget. Not because I couldn't. I was a numbers guy, after all, but because she liked to say it made her feel in control of the little things. And I let her. We had a rhythm. I handled investments, she handled the dailies. Groceries, utilities, daycare fees when Eli was younger. Subscriptions I never used but still paid for. We never fought about money. Maybe that was the first red flag. That Sunday, while she was out hiking with her leadership circle, I opened our financial portal for the first time in months. It wasn't out of paranoia. Not yet. It was out of something colder. Something clinical. Curiosity without emotion, the kind that comes after the bruising but before the bleeding. At first, everything looked normal. Groceries. Gas. A few clothing orders. But then came a name that stuck out. Osteria Veludo. A restaurant. Not far from her office. Upscale. Very specific. I remembered it because we'd only eaten there once on our 10th anniversary. It had taken me weeks to get the reservation. The charge was from a Thursday. I checked the calendar. That night, Natalie had told me she was at a Women in Leadership roundtable. She came home flushed, carrying a branded notebook and talking about the keynote speaker's terrible metaphors. I clicked into the transaction. 2 entrees. 1 bottle of wine. Dessert for 2. I moved on. Another charge, Montrose Hotel. Same day. Late check-in. No record of a checkout, meaning it was paid as a one-night stay. I stared at it, then stared at the screensaver bouncing on our living room TV. A single corner of light dancing in silence. There was more. Lyft rides from addresses that weren't ours. Duplicate Uber Eats charges to the same hotel. A flower shop receipt sent to a billing address that wasn't our home. And then a card. One I didn't remember signing up for. I pulled out my wallet. Our joint credit card was still there. The one she used for groceries and books and the occasional spa appointment. But this was different. A separate line of credit, opened 6 months ago. Under my name. I checked the statements. Payments made on time. Purchases at designer outlets, tech stores, jewelry boutiques. All small enough to avoid suspicion. All consistent. There was no record of application confirmation in my inbox. No calls. No authorizations. Just charges. Small, persistent, and quiet. Like termites. I called the bank. Went through the security checks, verified my ID, asked to review the application history. Yes, sir, the rep said. It looks like the application was completed online, using credentials matching your profile. My profile? I asked. Correct. It was submitted with 2-step verification. The confirmation went to your recovery email. My recovery email? Yes, sir. The one ending in n.halden@evokestrategies.com. Natalie's work domain. Not mine. I thanked the rep, wrote down the time, the reference number, and hung up. I didn't slam the phone. I didn't breathe hard. I just sat there, perfectly still, listening again to that same hum in the house. The hum of something built too neatly. A system, not a home. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was aware, now, of the structure, and how long it must have taken her to build it. We told Eli it was a long weekend adventure. Just the 2 of us. No homework, no bedtime rules, no vegetables if he didn't want them. He lit up, already imagining sleeping bags and marshmallows. I packed lightly, some clothes, work laptop, his favorite pajamas, and the tiny orange backpack he refused to travel without. Natalie didn't question it. I told her I needed a break, that Eli had been asking for time alone with Dad. She smiled almost too quickly and said it was a great idea. You both deserve a little bonding, she added. The moment we pulled out of the driveway, a weight shifted inside me. I didn't feel free. Not yet. But I felt precise. And that was better. My sister Rachel lived 20 minutes away, in a quiet cul-de-sac lined with maple trees and cautious neighbors. She had a finished basement with its own entrance and a soft spot for Eli. When I told her we needed a few nights away from home, she didn't ask why. She just made up the guest bed, put juice boxes in the fridge, and said, "Whatever this is, I'm on your side." That night, once Eli was asleep, I opened the folders I'd created. Not digital folders, not yet. Paper. Receipts, printouts, copied bank statements, a list of dates and times. Each line led somewhere. Not all of them were clear, but the shape was forming. Patterns don't lie. People do. I'd made mistakes. I saw that now. I'd let Natalie build a structure around me. Efficient, elegant, and airtight. She managed our home like she managed her teams, with polished language and passive precision. There were no fights. No screaming. No affairs in hotel lobbies or lipstick on collars. Just a quiet erosion of trust, masked by performance. But now I had the files. And I had time. I contacted Marcus again, this time asking for help on a deeper level. I need access, I said. Not illegal. Just invisible. Quiet. I want to see the system she sees. He hesitated. Matt, this is your wife. She was, I said calmly. Now she's my data point. He didn't ask more. We installed a passive sync to her cloud drive. Not to monitor her messages. That felt petty. I wanted something bigger. Audit trails. Metadata. Submission timestamps. Who was hired when? Who signed what? And under whose credentials? At night, I watched Eli sleep, his chest rising in slow, perfect rhythm. He had her eyelashes. My chin. Her stubbornness. My silence. He would grow up one day and ask questions. I knew that. Why we left. Why things changed. I didn't want to tell him stories. I wanted to show him a blueprint. This is where it broke. This is how it was built to break. 2 days later, Marcus sent me a folder. Inside were files from Evoke's hiring portal. Candidate logs. Interview schedules. Referral documents. One line stopped me cold. Candidate, Alexander Kane. Referral source, internal, Matthew Halden, spouse of head of talent. Status, fast-tracked. There it was. Not just my name. My title, my identity as her husband, used like a stamp of authenticity. I wasn't just a name on a form. I was part of the brand. She hadn't hidden it. She'd embedded it. The same way you embed code into clean text. Seamless. Invisible. Unquestioned. I closed the folder, took a long breath, and realized this wasn't about betrayal. Not anymore. It was about systems. And someone had underestimated how well I could read one. It was raining the night I opened the folder. Not the cinematic kind, no thunder, no dramatic streaks of lightning. Just a steady drizzle against Rachel's basement window, the kind that made everything feel slower, quieter, harder to ignore. Marcus had named the folder Echo_03. No subject line, no message. Just a timestamp, and then a second email. Check the audio first. Wear headphones. I waited until Eli was asleep, curled into a borrowed blanket with cartoons still humming on his tablet. Rachel was upstairs, watching one of her British detective shows, oblivious to the disintegration happening 3 floors below. The first file was a screen recording from Natalie's company laptop. It showed her Google Drive. She opened a video, a simple file titled Q3 Planning Call. Standard, bland. But not standard at all. On the screen appeared Natalie and Alexander, seated on opposite sides of a small glass table, soft lighting behind them. Not a call. A recording of a private meeting. Probably one of those hotel co-working lounges she mentioned once, places that blurred the line between business and intimacy. He leaned in first. They're expecting the formal recommendation this week. I'll send it by Thursday, she said smoothly. There's no block anymore. Not even Matt? He asked, not mocking, just curious. She laughed, quiet and low. Matt's off balance lately. He senses something, but he hasn't put it together. I've kept the audit trail clean. He smiled at that. Not wickedly. Warmly. Like someone watching their partner navigate a game together. She added, besides, once Eli's settled, we'll be free to move on. I'll offer early resignation. Say I need time. No one will question it. They think I've carried him this far. I paused the video, rewound it, played it again. Once Eli's settled. Move on. No one will question it. The walls around me didn't shake, but something in me cracked. Not loud. Not visible, but definite. I had become an asset, a phase in a career arc, a reference with a pulse. The next file was audio only. A car ride. She must have had her Bluetooth synced, our family car, my car, the one she borrowed because the other one was low on gas. Alexander's voice first. He's not stupid, you know. Natalie, I know. That's why I'm being careful. But he's also slow to act. He freezes instead of moves. It gives us time. A pause. Then, do you ever think he'll figure it all out? Another pause. Then her voice, softer than before, eventually. But by then, we'll be somewhere else. It won't matter. I didn't hear the rest. I didn't need to. I sat for a long time after that. Not in anger. Not even in grief. I thought I would feel shattered. I didn't. What I felt was precision. Everything she'd said over the past year, every delayed touch, every deflection, every false kindness, now slotted into place like pieces of a machine that had been humming behind a wall. She hadn't just found someone else. She'd replaced me operationally, logistically, structurally. And now, she was moving to extract me from the system, quietly, like deleting a shared file from the cloud and pretending it was never there. But unlike her, I don't believe in clean deletions. I believe in backups. They say revenge is best served cold, but I wasn't interested in revenge. Not really. Revenge is reactive, emotional, messy. What I wanted was clarity, exposure, an end written in bold ink, something that left no room for alternate interpretations. I spent the next 2 days in Rachel's basement building a file that would do what Natalie had done so carefully, stitch a narrative. But unlike hers, mine wouldn't be made of half-truths and plausible deniability. It would be made of numbers, dates, voices, and screens. The folder was titled Severance. Inside were the documents Marcus had retrieved, IP logs, application metadata, synced file timestamps, screenshots of internal chat messages between Natalie and Alexander from her company Slack, disguised as team coordination, but timestamped to align with the hotel and restaurant charges on our account, copies of purchases made on the unauthorized credit card, audio recordings from the car, the Q3 planning call video clipped to a single moment. Once Eli settled, we'll be free to move on. That line alone could burn bridges. But I wasn't just preparing evidence. I was preparing an audience. Natalie had a quarterly strategy presentation coming up, an internal event where all department heads, some board members, and external consultants were invited. She had mentioned it over dinner once, casually, thinking out loud about whether to include a new leadership module she'd developed. She'd even joked, "Maybe you can help with the visuals, Mr. Clean formatting." She didn't know I still had access to the design software we both used years ago. She didn't know I'd kept the login for the shared presentation template folder from when we did workshops together. She didn't know I still remembered how she liked to name her decks. That night, I logged in using the forgotten shared account. I found the file, Q4_futureleadership_nhalden.ptx. I didn't touch the first half. Her introduction, her quotes, her animated charts, they remained as they were. I only modified the end. Instead of her final summary slide, I inserted a silent black screen. Then, a video. The Q3 clip. Only the most precise minute. After that, a PDF scroll, the purchase records, the reference letter with my forged digital signature, the internal fast-track status assigned to Alexander's profile. Final slide. This concludes your leadership audit. I exported it, saved it to a discrete flash drive, then uploaded a backup copy to a private link I controlled. All that remained was delivery. The morning of the event, I called Natalie. My voice was light. She was rushing, clearly distracted. "Hey," she said. "I'll be in back-to-backs most of the day, so if Eli needs anything." "I've got him," I said. "You'll do great today." She paused. "Thanks. That means a lot." There was a tenderness in her voice that made me pause for the briefest moment. She still thought I didn't know. Still thought the illusion held. I arrived at the venue early, dressed like a vendor, carrying a laptop bag and a small tech case. I greeted the AV team, flashed a smile, explained I was here to adjust a last-minute file for Ms. Halden. No one questioned it. Natalie always delivered early. People trusted her name. I uploaded the file, tested the playback. The technician even complimented the layout. "Look sharp," he said. "Minimalist. Love the switch from slides to media." "It's a new format," I said. By the time the guests were seated, I was already outside, walking the long way back to my car. I didn't stay to see her face. I didn't need to. The setup was done. Now came the part she never planned for. The moment where the truth presented itself, calmly, confidently, in front of her peers, her partners, her polished audience. Where the system she built swallowed its own architect. Natalie had always known how to own a room. That was her gift, presence. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She orchestrated attention the way some people direct orchestras, subtly, with the barest motion of tone and posture. That morning, she stood before a semicircle of executives, team leads, and consultants, bathed in soft lighting and quiet respect. Her blazer sharp, her voice steady, her slides polished down to the pixel. She was delivering what was meant to be her final keynote before stepping down. Strategic pause, she called it in passing, to explore new personal leadership ventures. No one knew that pause had already begun, and that it wouldn't be voluntary. She clicked through the final data set charts, numbers, warm projections about culture and accountability. Then she gave the cue. Let's look ahead, she said, to what comes next. The room dimmed. The screen turned black. No one moved. Then came the video. Natalie's voice, casual but intimate. Matt's off balance lately. He senses something, but he hasn't put it together. I've kept the audit trail clean. A few heads turned. Someone coughed, unsure if this was a metaphor. Then Alexander's voice. Do you ever think he'll figure it out? Natalie again, eventually. But by then, we'll be somewhere else. It won't matter. A silence fell so deep it was almost physical. The video ended, but the slides didn't stop. Next came a scroll of documents, real ones. PDFs, signatures, side-by-side comparisons. A forged digital letter bearing the name Matthew Halden. Metadata logs. Credit transactions aligned with staff hiring. One slide lingered on the screen longer than the others. Candidate status, fast-tracked. Referral source, internal, spouse of head of talent. And under it, authorized by Natalie Halden. There was no music, no narration, just a cold visual procession of truth. The room didn't erupt. It collapsed inward. One man, a board member, leaned back with arms crossed. Another, from finance, scribbled furiously. Natalie didn't move at first. She stood, frozen, remote still in hand, as if she could somehow rewind the world by pressing back. Then she tried to speak. I don't know where this, her voice cracked. This wasn't supposed to, I didn't approve. But even as the words tumbled, the weight of them crumbled. Someone stood up. A senior legal advisor. Can we pause the meeting? No one objected. Natalie looked around, searching for a face, a lifeline, an ally. She didn't find one. She reached for her laptop, but it was already being unplugged by the AV tech, gently, like removing a flame from a match. Outside the conference room, Alexander had been waiting in the hallway, expecting to be called in for post-presentation drinks, the usual small-circle celebration. Instead, he saw the first person leave head down, stiff shoulders. Then another. No smiles. No chatter. Natalie stepped out seconds later, her bag hanging from one shoulder like an afterthought. Her eyes found his. They didn't hug, didn't speak. They didn't have to. The plan was over. And this? This wasn't just exposure. It was extraction. The house was silent when I walked in. Not empty silent. A different kind of stillness. One that echoed with the knowledge that someone had cried here recently. That drawers had been opened and closed too hard. That pacing had happened, and then pacing had stopped. I stood in the entryway for a long time before moving. The lights were dimmed, the kitchen spotless. The wine glass she'd left the night before was gone. The scent of lavender hung in the air, faint, as if she'd tried to clean everything that could be cleaned. There was a note on the counter, folded, but I didn't touch it. I didn't need to read her version. Instead, I placed the flash drive next to it, the same one from the meeting. I'd renamed the folder inside. Not severance, not evidence, not even truth. Just remains. Next to the drive, I left a handwritten card. Cream-colored. Blank inside, except for one line. This is your letter of recommendation. Use it wisely. I didn't leave anything else. No luggage. I'd already packed the essentials into the car. No explanation, she'd seen everything she needed to see. No goodbye, that was already behind us. Upstairs, Eli sat cross-legged on the bed, gently tucking his action figures into a backpack. He looked up when I entered. Is it time? Yeah, I said. We'll stay at Aunt Rachel's a little longer. Okay, he replied, without asking why. He didn't need to. Children understand silence better than adults ever do. We stepped out into the evening. The car door clicked shut with that soft, padded thump that always made me think of closing chapters. I started the engine. The driveway light flicked on behind us. Natalie didn't come out. She was somewhere inside, maybe watching, maybe not. Maybe still trying to write a version of the story that made sense to her. Maybe trying to figure out who to be now when no one else was watching. I didn't hate her, but I didn't pity her, either. What we built was real once, and what she'd turned it into was deliberate. That's what mattered most to me in the end. Not the betrayal, not even the man, but the structure, the design of it all. The careful architecture of deception built with my name, my trust, my absence. And now it had collapsed under its own weight. Not with fire, not with fury, but with silence. And that silence was mine now, not hers.